This is Peter Noah, writer of number 61, Philomena. You're listening to the Blacklist Exposed on Golden Spiral Media.
Pull the fire alarm, Aaron. Let the others know. Welcome to the Blacklist Exposed. I'm Agent Troy Heinrichs.
And happy birthday, Megan Boone. And I'm Agent Aaron Peterson. Do you smell that, Troy? Is that you, or is that Justice?
God, I hope it's not me. I showered this morning.
Thanks for joining us once again as we discuss number 61 on the Blacklist, Melanoma. Wait, read that wrong. Philomena, written by Peter Noah and directed by Michael Watkins. Blacklist Exposed is supported by the new Reddington watch from Leonard and Church, inspired in the style of Raymond Reddington himself. Don't miss your chance to own this limited edition timepiece from Leonard and Church in partnership with Sony Pictures Television and the Blacklist. Order yours today at leonardandchurch.com/blacklist. Show notes and other intel for this episode of The Blacklist Exposed can be found at theblacklistexposed.com. And once again, we were recording on Megan Boone's birthday, so happy birthday, Megan.
Happy birthday, Megan.
Megan Boom. I'm really mad that never started trending, but whatever.
It's still good. It's still good. It is her birthday after all. Make it happen, people. Megan
That's
Boom.
right.
B-O-O-M. All right. In case you missed it, we did release the audio of the panel from C2E2 earlier this week for your listening pleasure. So if you did not get a chance to watch the Facebook live stream, you can now hear it in all its fun and glory from the C2E2 panel direct. Thanks again to Sony Pictures Television for helping put on a great event last week, and for C2E2 for having us there. Also for John, Amir, and Susan for making the trip to Chicago to hang out with all of you, special agents, the fans of the Blacklist.
Yeah, and I've been getting a lot of people asking me about, why didn't you ask this? Why didn't you ask that? Blah, 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 blah. Well, A, I only had an hour. And B, Troy took too long with his little trivia game. That's what I'm thinking.
The trivia
really
game
Troy's
was
fault.
fun. Everybody said the trivia game was fun.
I had a bunch of Liz questions, and I didn't get to those. That kind of bummed me out. But what are you going to do? All right. Now, last week, we asked you whose side would Dembe take in the war between Red and Kaplan. So far, you are holding strong with Red and with the Red and Dembe connection, as 94% of you said Red, while 3% of you think Kaplan, and 3% of you said he would side with himself. Was that an option? I didn't know it was an option. Douglas said that he already proved last week he was on Red's side, to which John reminded him about how distraught Dembe was over Kate's death and wasn't too happy with Raymond. But Kara said Dembe may just take a page out of Kaplan's book and just look over Liz and Agnes himself.
Someone's got to look after Agnes. What?
Ooh. So some big questions this week. Will Joel spill the beans? Where does Mr. Kaplan get her shrink wrap? That was pretty funny. What's in the box? But the big one this week, we want to know, who do you think is missing, who do you think is behind the missing fingerprint? Now, I got to say, before we move on, Troy, that what's in the box thing, I actually live tweeted this week. It's been Troy this season. As you can tell, it's not nearly as clever. But as you watch it, that box thing came up, and I thought, oh, this is what's in the box. That's clever. No one's going to get that. Everyone on the internet literally made the same joke as I did at the same time.
It is a classic. It is a classic.
Internet exploded with the same joke. I felt like I am not being witty enough as the problem. So I got to get my A game.
They ripped it away from us in season 1 because Liz opened up Tom's box right away. So I'm glad we were able to make the joke happen.
Hey, we got a Tom mention this week.
We did. Apparently he's not having such a good time.
Yeah. Sure seems like he's having fun. I mean, for the most part, but what are you going to do? Oh, so what'd you think about this week's episode, man? I mean, are you at this point? We've had a lot of blacklists the last week and a half. Are you blacklisted out?
No, I am excited. This is, 3 weeks to go to the finale. I think everything is setting up for a perfect ending, and I am excited to see where it goes.
And I want to tell people now, the season finale is a 2-hour episode, because a lot of people did not realize that it was 2 hours when it came back. So I'm giving you forewarning. That last episode is 2 hours.
And that last episode is not one episode and one episode. It is a 2-hour full-on one episode finale. So
does that mean one blacklister?
One blacklister covering both hours. What?
You already know who it is, don't you?
I sure do, and I'm excited.
See, I don't. Everybody knows. Like, everybody looks at this stuff. I don't. I want to know. I want to be surprised. Like I was that. Where was Agnes's babysitter? I was surprised at that. There was somebody in the room, by the way, and that has been like a big debate on the internet. It's like, does Agnes not have a babysitter? I mean, there are explanations, really, if you think. There was somebody else in the room that easily could be the babysitter. It could have been that Kaplan got there and maybe Tom was there and Tom left because he trusts Kaplan, because they do trust Kaplan. Or Kaplan has the babysitter in the closet. There's reason. It's something that I just don't get carried away or worried about, but it seemed to be a thing.
You've apparently thought about it way more than I did, but if you want to keep counting the babysitter jokes, that's 2 so far before we even get into the case profile.
All right, well, let's get into it, I guess. Sorry.
What must be known eventually should be known immediately, so let's get on with this week's show.
We got to do a show, too? I
thought we were just going to talk about the babysitter the whole time.
That's fine. We can do that. All right, Philomena meets up with Joe Paracchio, and after Joe thinks he's going to have a hot, sweaty night, she delivers him to Mr. Kaplan. And Kaplan is running a game where she is using Philomena to basically get in close to people, get them unsuspecting, and then take them. And then what she's doing is she's taking them to a location and giving them the option to either play the game the way she wants it played or she's turning them over. Now, what do you think about this? Because I guess there is an argument to be made for why doesn't she just kill Red if she just wants Red gone away?
Long history. I mean, Susan said it in the panel last week at C2E2. She said there's a fine line between love and hate during the panel. And I think that there is history here with Reddington. If she were to take him out, kill him completely, there could be backlash against her from the people that were closest to Red, like Dembe, like Marvin Gerard, etc. There could be reasons why taking Red off the board is bad for Liz and Agnes. And so she can't do that because then there'll be people coming after Liz because they didn't get the justice they needed against Reddington, so they'll take it out on his potential daughter, niece, whatever you want to call her. And then depending on how it all plays, I mean, there's just taking Reddington out is the easy play. So I think the way that she's doing it now is more calculated because she knows that in the deep of her heart, she does love him, and he did do something for her to make her feel involved in Liz's life, which she was previously as Katya, the nanny. And so for that, she'll be ever grateful. So at least this way, justice can be served. She's big on the justice, I think, when it comes down to it.
I just want to point out that she already tried to kill him and failed. And you just gave that whole soliloquy. And I'm like, well, she already tried. She just failed. So this is probably why she's doing this.
When did she try to kill him?
Dembe with the poison?
Oh, well, if we were assuming that was still Kaplan, we never got a true answer as to how that went down.
Well, who do you think did it?
I have no idea.
You think Agnes did it? I don't think she did it. Why are you blaming the child? That's what I'm jumping for. I think you're blaming the child for this. But it was Kaplan.
It had to be somebody that still, again, remember, the poison was tailored specifically to Red's genetic makeup. So it had to be someone that understands Red's genetic makeup through and through.
I'm pretty sure they established that it was Kaplan that put it there. And Dembe just delivered it.
Yes. Well, we know Dembe delivered it for sure.
And I know Kaplan did it for sure. Apparently you're just realized you just stepped on your own toes. You're like, you know what?
Well,
maybe it was Katerina.
You don't know if the poison actually would have killed him. We were told the doctor thinks it was going to kill him. So she might not have actually tried to kill him, just incapacitate. I can't say that word.
Keep trying. Let's go. Let's do this. Come on. Incapacitated?
Incapacitated.
I like when I sound like the smart one. That's funny. Anyway, that's what she's doing. And basically, Philomena goes on to lure Gerard's sister, who seems like a sweet person, she just wants to make things right after that horrible accident and gets caught up in it, ends up with a gun to her head, and poor Gerard ends up shrink wrapped to a pole and tasering himself. That's just horrible.
Was it just me, or did you have, like, in the back of your mind, the voice of Fisher Stevens when he was in Short Circuit?
Yeah, I'm like, call Johnny Five. Call Johnny Five.
I just heard that voice in the back of my head when he was playing the doctor, and when he tasered himself, he was like, "Oh, good golly."
Yeah, what a shocking twist. Okay, let's go into characters. Most of our stuff, this is obviously, I look at the end of the season as kind of like a chess game, and this is like the first few moves. So what we're doing is we're setting up the pieces for the final run, and I think it's setting up to be a hell of a showdown. But before we get into where we think it's going to go, let's talk about the characters, and that starts with music.
As it does. As Phil, I can't even say her name this week. Holy cow! What is wrong with me?
This is what it feels like to be me, Troy.
It sure does. I hung out with you too much last week. As Philomena sets her sights on Joe in the bar, we hear Home Greencastle's Life Passes On By, and then Fitz in the Tantrum's Dear Mr. President plays as Special Agent Julian Gale orders everyone out of the ice rink. I want that kind of power. That was cool. It's Throwback Thursday on the Blacklist as we relive Sundown by Gordon Lightfoot and Diane Fowler's shooting. And then we close out the episode with Soul Savers All the Way Down as that plays over as the ladies question Donald about the fingerprint.
Yeah, and that's a cool plot point. We'll be talking about that more as we get on. But first, let's start with Panda Baker. She is back, and she is pissed that 86 bodies have popped up on an ice rink. I would be too, probably. I mean, to be fair, I would be too.
Yeah, was it a hurricane of trouble or something? The terminology she used for that was she was pretty stressed out, it seemed.
Well, I mean, you got to look at it from the post office perspective. They have this big underground movement going on with this Red Reddington. They're bringing a lot of people down, and this brings a renewed focus to Raymond Reddington that had finally died down after the Liz Keane situation from last year.
Well, the big question that I have is when Gale comes in, he's talking about the Reddington task force that Wrestler was a part of. Why did it all of a sudden just stop? Like, who's in charge of stopping it? Was that Main Justice? Was that Fowler? Was that Panabaker? Like, who said, hey, Reddington Task Force, you're done?
Well, I think they established that it was killed, and they don't know why it was killed. But Wrestler was taken from that task force and brought to our task force.
And wouldn't you think that Gale and Wrestler would have been talking in cahoots because they've been working together for so long?
No, not really. I mean, I thought about that, but then you look at it from a coworker perspective. There's tons of people I've worked with in my life, and then if they go on to other things, I don't talk to them hardly ever anymore. I mean, that's just part of life. So that didn't surprise me.
I'm just surprised. I mean, it had to maybe task force, NDAs or something had to be signed that Wrestler couldn't have said anything. I would assume if Reddington turns himself in, like that moment in that second, Wrestler would have been like, Gale, we got him. He's here, but maybe not.
Well, I figured they would have pulled him aside, and when they, I can't remember because he walked in to them, and I think then Wrestler was already working for the FBI at that point. He was already down there doing the post office thing, right?
Well, maybe they corner him, and Wrestler's not at that facility at that moment. So as they bring Wrestler into the fold, maybe that's when he signs the NDA and can't say anything before he says, hey, yeah, I've been tracking him, and he went disappeared for 4 years. And blah, 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 blah.
They do kind of tend to prefer you don't say anything to anyone, including other agents. So that wouldn't surprise me, however they did it. It's TV. I don't care. I don't care.
Are you excited, though? This is like the second week in a row now, though, that we've had Season 1 throwbacks. Are you excited about those Season 1 throwbacks? Or you're like...
Yes. Because if you're going to do it, to have Kaplan be the adversary, you have to go back all the way. You have to be willing to go the distance. And there are probably going to be some things that don't line up as perfectly as Ultra fans would like. As long as nothing isn't downright contradictory, I'm okay with it. Because, basically this is a character that came along as the show evolved. And the history, which happens, that's part of television. You don't have everything mapped out from day one. It's just impossible to do so because actors connect and that sort of thing. And because Kaplan has connected so greatly to the audience, she has this arc, and they're going to do their best to connect the pieces, connect the dots to some things that hadn't been resolved in the past. And I think they're doing a really pretty good job of it so far.
Yeah, I mean, when we saw Diane get shot back in Season 1, it was like a shock at that moment. Like, you didn't even put two.
Was it Season 1 that she got shot?
Yeah,
it was a while ago.
Yeah. It was the whole mole hunt scenario. As he was trying to check down Newton Phillips. But what was interesting about it was that in that moment back in Season 1, you don't even like process it in your brain that, oh yeah, Kaplan would have to come in there and clean that up. And what did she do with the body? And did she rearrange furniture, et cetera, et cetera? So it was really cool to get that kind of throwback to say, oh yeah. And then he was standing at the window, and it was exactly at 5'10", which was Reddington's height. A lot of that was really, really interesting as they're walking through it.
I'll come back to that because I actually have some questions about Gale's perception of how that went down.
Right. When we get to Gale. When we get to Gale,
yeah. Captain Sunglasses. All right, so Cooper does a nice little series recap, which I thought was pretty good, where he points out wrestler used to chase Red, in case people forgot, that he didn't want this job, in case people forgot, and didn't want this Red task force, in case people forgot. What do you think about Cooper giving us a little exposition history here?
Well, I thought it was kind of funny, actually. He was like, oh, no, I don't want this. What are you talking about? You guys forced this on me. You deal with it. But at the same time, he also used to work with Red in the Kuwait thing and, all that stuff.
Do you think we're going to get an answer on Kuwait now at some point this
season? Potentially. Who knows? But I love how he conveniently also left out the fact that Samar was placed on the task force by Reddington himself. The whole thumbprint thing.
He forgot.
Well, he left that part out of his diatribe of how the task force came together.
Maybe he doesn't know.
Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he's responsible too. Who knows?
Maybe he never had a conversation with Samar about that. It seems to be a sticking point with you, with Cooper in conversations.
I know.
Maybe he's a guy that doesn't like to have talks, Well, he's a doer.
Well, if we were talking about the mother theory, it was funny because everybody was like, okay, if Katarina is Red, then Cooper's the dad. I got a chuckle out of that when it was going around the internet this week.
That's just insane. Okay, so what must be known should be known, eventually should be known immediately. This is where Cooper was basically telling a wrestler to go ahead, work with your buddy, get ahead of things. And he tells him what must be known eventually should be known immediately. I take that to mean if we know trouble's coming, we need to know what's coming right away.
I thought that was maybe a line thrown in towards the audience. Like Cooper's in on it or something. It seemed really placed in a specific spot for a reason. The line just like jumped out of the screen a little bit, like, hey, FYI, we're going to tell you something now because we're going to give you an answer now, kind of thing.
What was the answer then if you took it that way, Crazy Troy?
That Katarina was Liz's aunt. Like, we're going to get that answer. Like, we're going to get an answer in this episode. That's what it seemed like they were trying to tell us, the writers, to the fans.
Well, I kind of wished, Liz would have asked the question. All right, so you're around, but so what happened when I was a kid? But we'll get there. All right, so at the end of the episode, Cooper locks Red down. Did you see that coming? He locked him down.
That was fantastic. No, sit your butt down. You're going to sit right. First, he puts a babysitter on him, and then he says, "Nope, you're grounded," like a dad.
What do you think about this? Because here's my question, all right? So they find 86 bodies. There's no way that's not a big factor in the public eye right now. There's just no way. There's no way. So there's got to be a media circus somewhere about it, which means Reddington's face is going to be splashed everywhere. How could he walk among the streets so fluidly? I think, do you think that's why Cooper wants him to sit put? Because you can't go out right now.
That's one possibility. The other side of the coin is
just to save him, keep him safe.
That's two. The third item would be he's walked around for 20 years as one of the top 10 most wanted criminals and was totally fine getting away for 20 years. He should be easily able to get away from this as well, which clearly he did since the fingerprint goes missing or wasn't there to begin with at all, depending on how you look at it. But at the same time, Cooper's yelled at Red before to say, no way. And Red still does what Red still wants to do. So the bigger question of this is, why did Red comply with Cooper in this moment?
Why did he comply?
Yeah, why this time did Red say, no, you're right, Cooper, I'm just going to sit in this chair. When any other time they've had this kind of spat between the two of them, Red has always said, you know what, screw you, Cooper, I'm going to go do my own thing.
I think Cooper is at his wit's end. This is an escalation of events that was totally unexpected and extremely serious. And I think he just had to put his foot down. I think because they have a friendship, they know each other. I think he understands his tone and he understands I can't do what I want this time. I have to listen this time. This time he's right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of what I go with. Yep. All right, moving on to Aram. Really not much with Aram this week. He had a big episode last week, but this week he vouches for Samar, which apparently pisses Samar off. So really this is more about Samar than anything. But I do want to point out poor Aram. He's like, I was trying to help. Man, we've all been there, right?
Yeah.
Are we right? I thought I was helping you. No, you keep your nose out of my business. You know how that goes.
100%.
Poor guy. Of course. It's never 93% with Troy. It's always 100. So Samar wants into a fellowship. I don't know if that's a fellowship of the ring. I don't know what that is. But she wants into this fellowship but wants to get it on her own merits, which I totally understand and respect. Because of the recommendation by Aram, that turns her off and she turns it down. What do you does that bother you? Are you with that? Do you get it? What? Because some people are really divided on this choice.
Yeah, this last week I was kind of like, oh man, you're yelling at Aram, I don't like you anymore. This week I'm at the point where this isn't in character for Samar. Samar would do her own thing. Samar would say, I earned this fellowship regardless of who the nomination was. She even said it to him. I was up for it last year. I was qualified last year. I was qualified the year before. So the fact that she turns it down specifically because of Ram put it in there, now we are literally at whiny at this point.
No. That I will totally disagree. I know that's the sentiment that's running around, so it's not me. It's not just you, but I just totally disagree with that.
Why do you disagree with it?
I disagree with it because if you look at it from her perspective, and I tried to look at it from my perspective, how I would feel, because I tend to be a very proud person too, and I see that character as being a very proud person the exact same way. If she tried to get something 3 times, Aram didn't vouch for her the other 2 times, is what she's saying. But this 3rd time you do, and then I get it. So I didn't get it on my merit. I got it because of your word. I don't want it on your word. I want it on my merit. I want to earn it. But in her mind, let me finish. In her mind, yes, some of it might be that she's hurt and resentful about him and what's her name? Janet. But that's not the totality of it. She wanted and deserved that, whatever that fellowship is, on her own, and she didn't want his help. She wanted to get it because she earned it. I would feel the exact same way. I have turned down things for similar reasons.
Yeah, but if we're assuming years are going by or whatever it might be, he really didn't know He really didn't know Aram didn't really know Samar's work to nominate her in, say, season 2.
No,
if season 2 was a year.
This is like episode 4 or season 4, and she's saying, I earned it the past 2 years and you didn't nominate me. This year you did.
Because last year he hadn't worked with her long enough to make a valid choice or a valid case for it.
He might also feel that way, but he also didn't do it. So in my mind, it was a pity thing.
Ressler didn't do it either. Liz didn't do it either. Nobody else nominated her. The fact that Aram said, I'm actually seeing your work and able to say, yeah, you definitely deserve it. He wrote it up and sent it in. I mean, I thought that was a nice gesture.
I think it was a pity gesture and it was a guilty gesture. So I'm totally with her on this.
Well, based on Ram's character, I can agree with that statement that it probably was a pity gesture.
Well, that's what she was basing it on. I mean, that's what she was going with. She wanted that job because she earned that job.
But it goes back to the thing that everybody's clamoring about on the internet is that the fact that she inferred what we all think happened, which was Amir doing it as a pity thing, Ram as a pity thing, but at the same time, she's the one that's making that assumption. So the fact that she's jumping to that assumption without letting him speak is why everybody's all kind of like, oh,
I get why people are doing it, but I also look at the science behind it. This is total man-woman science. Absolutely. No, this is total just science. 3 consecutive years, apparently, she applied for the fellowship. 2 years, Aram did not vouch for her. She did not get it. The 3rd year, he does, and she did. To her, that says she didn't get it on her own merits, and I understand that line of thinking. That would make me upset at the whole system, really. So I get that, and she didn't want him to she didn't want to have to get it because he basically gave it to her. She didn't want that. She wanted to earn it. She didn't feel like she's getting it on her own merits, man. And that's a big deal for proud people.
So now all the super spies on the internet are going to be like, ooh, what do they mean by this? But when she said 3 years, is this an FBI thing? Is this anybody can apply to this? It's like the United Nations kind of thing. So when she was applying for the last 3 years, was she applying as an agent of Mossad? And then she just recently started applying as an agent of the FBI, because remember, she was an FBI before.
Yeah, I'm aware. I don't know the answer to that question. I assume the fellowship had to do with hobbits. That's really where I go. So I'm really bummed that there aren't little people involved.
Because then there are people out there saying, oh, she's been with the task force for 3 years. So 3 years of calendar time has passed in this entire story at this point since season 2.
Yeah, there's been a long period of time. I mean, Liz has had a baby, so obviously there's been a long time.
Yeah, but Agnes isn't 3 years old at this point.
No, but she was also just born last year. And it's a big kid. I mean, she looks like she's about a year.
Potentially, yeah, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be nice if we actually knew what the present day timeline was. Like, as a task force, has the Reddington task force been around for 3 years? Or is it really just like 90 days or just something?
You want a 24 clock and it just ticks away in every episode that tells us like what day it is?
I missed the clock.
Lord. Well, I'm with you, Tamar. So, hey. And she had to explain Islamophobia to an old white guy. I thought that was an uncomfortable moment. Let's go to Julian Gale. Okay, this is the new cop with the...
Well, they're agents. They're not cops. They're agents.
I'm sorry. He seems
Show
like
some
a cop.
respect for the FBI. Come on.
That stink is the smell of justice. I laughed out loud. I got to admit, that was a line that made me laugh out loud. I don't know if it was meant to be funny, but I laughed pretty hard. This guy wears sunglasses indoors and all the time. I mean, all the time. And he's coming for Red, and apparently is as wild as a peach orchard hog. What do you think about this new character, Julian Gale? What was your impression? Did you like having him here? Do you like this whole team up with Russ, or what do you think about this guy?
Well, at first I thought he was blind. I thought that's why he was wearing the sunglasses.
He's like the Ray Charles of crime.
Well, just the way he was walking and the way his head was tilting, and I'm like, oh my gosh, is he blind? And then to find out that there was a blind guy later in the episode, I was like, that's kind of funny, actually. Not that the guy's blind, just the fact that there was a blind guy in the episode. Because I truly thought this would be cool.
I like how you immediately try to cover your tracks on that one. Oh, crap. I hope I didn't offend any blind people that are watching TV.
But I did. I thought this would be really cool because he's talking about the smells, right? And if you're seeing impaired, then other senses would be able to take. So I seriously thought the guy was blind initially. And then we kind of like dipped down like to pretend you looked at the guy's name tag. I was like, well, that's kind of this is a really interesting character. And then to find out that he's not blind, I was kind of like, oh man, that's kind of a disappointment. So
I thought he was Red's like long lost kid because the way his head kept bobbing around the first few scenes. And it's like, what is totally he related to Red?
Totally true.
He did. I said, okay, either this cop is enamored with, obviously he's enamored with Reddington. So I'm like, well, if you studied Reddington, the way Spader plays him, he's always bobbing his head and kind of moving around in that thing. And his was an exaggerated version of that. I'm like, okay, either you are a huge George Clooney mid-90s fan. Very few people get that, but it's true. Go look it up. Or the character is obsessed with Raymond Reddington to the point where he has adopted his mannerisms and some of his tics, because that was totally like a Raymond mimic to me, because it went away as the episode went on. And I'm like, thank God, because if it would have been the whole episode, I probably would have had a problem with his character, but he ended up being a character I really dug by the end.
Well, and it is a totally true thing, because like, say you travel to, I go down to Texas to see my family. And after just 7 days of being in Texas, you start to get that southern drawl, accent, and inflection happens in your voice just after 7 days. So I could totally see that being a thing. Like, I've been watching this guy for so long, I've now almost become the guy. Well,
I mean, if you look at it, the sunglasses, what does Raymond wear all the time? Sunglasses. If you look at his inflections, like I said, like the head bobbing and stuff like that. And I think a lot of people weren't noticing or picking up on that. They just thought it was just a weird, like, profiling thing or something, but I think he has adopted a lot of the mannerisms of Raymond Reddington, and that's what he was playing off of.
It's true. Because the minute I saw the head bob, it's the first thing I thought of. I was like, oh, he's doing like a Raymond.
or a Clooney. I'm telling you, Clooney was really popular with that back in the 90s. When he was on ER and From Dusk Till Dawn, his head was always bobbing around. I'm like, sit still, my God.
The character, though, is fantastic. I love his style, his delivery, just his bravado. I mean, everything about him just oozes cool at this point. The thing that was a little creepy, though, was when they start to redo the whole Diane Fowler scene, and he does have the gun pointed at Diego. I was like, okay, he might be a little bit off his rocker, so got to keep an eye on that. At the same time, then he's actually assuming Reddington's position, and then it almost looks like he tears up a little bit. So, and then, of course, when he said, I'm sorry, this is my fault over that one body at the ice rink, I wonder if that was Diane's body in the bag at that point, at that spot. And so could he potentially be like Diane's son or part of the family, potentially? Since we love to talk about family relationships on this show.
I actually, I did think that initially, but by the time I got to the end of the episode and you see the scene where he's breaking down what happened, and he's seen things that you shouldn't really see because he's whatever his official job title is. He reminded me very much of Will Graham. Do you know who Will Graham is?
I do not.
Okay. The early 80s had Manhunter, and that's Will Graham. Also, if you watched Red Dragon, the Hannibal Lecter movie, that's Will Graham. Or if you watched, then they have the Hannibal TV series, Will Graham. Will Graham is the FBI profiler, but that basically gets so involved in the people that he is chasing and the crime scenes that he starts to empathize with the killer and starts to understand themselves. Like he gets into the mind of the actual killer and starts to think like them, act like them, feel like them. And it causes a lot of psychotic behavior kind of with the character and stuff. But that's what he reminded me as he went on. He reminded me of someone that was too involved. He's been too involved. He's too into Raymond's head. So he's starting, because as the episode goes on, there are several times where he seems to be too in tune with what Raymond Reddington thinks, acts, does. And that's what I got. I got a real vibe of Will Graham from Hannibal.
Okay.
Yeah. That's where I went with his character, which is it's a very cool aspect because I'll be honest, when it started, I really wasn't enjoying the character at all. And then as it went on, by the end of the episode, I'm like, I really love this character because I kind of see what I think they're doing. And if I'm right about that, if that's the way it goes, that's a pretty exciting way to take someone that's on Raymond's case. You know, somebody who's kind of losing it because he's so obsessed with catching him that he is starting to like live vicariously through him in some aspects.
Almost a Tommy Lee Jones fugitive kind of situation.
No, Tommy Lee Jones is just more, he's going to get his man. The character I'm more referencing is more, I can't get out of this. I am so obsessed. I am in that guy's head. You know, everything I see it as Raymond.
Okay.
Like I said, the glasses, the mannerisms, the way that he proceeds a crime scene that he thinks Raymond was there, how he pieces together what someone like Raymond would do because he's so in his head, he kind of figures out this is what Reddington would do because I know Reddington. I've been living that character. I've been living Raymond Reddington for years. So I am partially in his mind, I guess. It's different.
It is. I wonder if that has any correlation then to like Red's whole world is falling apart. You know, death is creeping around the door. His obsession has caused him to unravel. Is that the same thing we're supposed to think about Julian Gale's character? His obsession will lead to his undoing as well. Maybe.
It's possible. I mean, it's an interesting character. And by the end, especially when he says, you know, now he's going to go after Elizabeth Keene. I wonder where it's all going to lead. Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty excited about that character. For a character like, because as soon as he said the stink is the smell of justice, I was like, oh God, what is happening? What is happening? But by the end, I'm like, yeah, I love it. Let's go. I'm full on.
See, and you're opposite because I was like, when he did the whole opening monologue and the stink of smell of justice and get out of my ice rink, I was like, I love this character already.
I had to come on board. I wasn't sold immediately, but he won me over by far. Now, Wrestler finally got something to do.
Woohoo!
Finally, we got an arc, man. We got an arc. Wrestler is
we should say he got something to do and didn't have to get punched in the face to get it done.
This is true. Not yet. Got 5 episodes left, right? 4, 5.
Right.
What do we got? He teams up with Gale and learns of Red killing Diane Fowler, which, how do you think he's going to take this? I mean, do you think he's going to go the distance now? I mean, he's going to find a way to bring down Raymond and just say, screw the task force, or he's going to protect his boys?
That's really interesting because I thought that there would be a more, visceral reaction that he would have to that because of the fact of how Reverend Wright went down. And it seemed like he was almost, I wouldn't say okay with Diane's death, but he was more at peace with Diane's death than he was with Reverend Wright. So I don't know if he's assumed that it was for the good because he knows about the cabal and that Diane was part of the cabal. And so because of that, he knows that Hitchens is with the cabal. I think he's more enamored with Julian Gale's focus, and that's how he used to be. So he's going to go back and attack the Reverend Wright case full on. And that makes me really nervous for Wrestler by the end of the season.
Ooh. You think he's going to go up, he's going to be at odds with Red, huh?
Well, either he'd be at odds with Red or he's at odds with the cabal.
That's possible. You know, we haven't had a whole lot of cabal this year.
I know.
It's time to come back full force, right?
And remember, technically, Red is somewhat in charge of the Cabal from season 3, so...
That's the impression, yep.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. Now, here's my big question, okay? We talked about that with the profiling question of the week. The fingerprint. So he didn't change it, and Red... Well, he said to Liz, he doesn't know what she's talking about, so I don't think he changed it if we go by the fact that he doesn't lie to Liz. Right?
Yep. I even turned to my wife. I was like, did he just lie to Liz? Because I thought that he would have something to do with it. And I kind of played the scene back, and I'm like, okay, he truly doesn't know anything about it.
He didn't. And then we just assume, well, Rustler must have done it, and then he says he didn't do it. So do you think maybe Red's fingerprint just wasn't on there, or did someone doctor it? Do you think maybe Gale doctored it? Like he rubbed it out or something before. That sounded wrong when I said it. But that he took care of the fingerprint before he even handed it to Rustler.
That would be an interesting twist, because then it would have Julian Gale be, especially as you said, molding in, taking over the persona and all of that stuff. I didn't even think of that because of the way he held the thing and handed it up to Rustler, and then Rustler held it, with the glove and everything. So I don't think it was Julian. I think it was Samar, because they were having the conversation between Wrestler and Samar about should you, all of that stuff. And so Samar would have been the only one to know when Donald actually submitted it. So then she comes back and says, you did the right thing by submitting it. Like, I heard about the fingerprint. So she obviously heard about it, turned in. So maybe Samar did it, because remember, Samar is placed on the task force by Raymond.
That's possible.
So she would be Raymond's inside person.
Yeah, is she still on the payroll? I mean, she's not. We haven't seen anything between the two of them in a while.
We haven't seen anything referencing the fact that she's been on the task force by Raymond's employee since she was put on the task force by Raymond's employee in season 2. So that leads me to say Samar was the one that did it.
Interesting. I hadn't even thought of that, honestly. So there you go. There's an option.
There you go.
Okay, now let's go to poor Gerard. He's back and stuns himself after Alexa leads Philomena to him, which I like the character of Philomena. That's kind of, seems like a long con kind of game, though. I mean, she works pretty fast. I'll give her that.
But it makes total sense now why Susan Meisner's been missing as Mrs. Beeman from The Americans. She's been trying to understand all of these people. So
is that who she is?
Yeah.
She was on The Americans?
She was on The Americans. Okay. So it's good to see her. Good to see her.
I don't watch that show. Is it worth it?
Oh, yeah. Totally.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Kaplan wants, I'm like, well, do I want to watch a Felicity show? But apparently she's like the evil Felicity, so maybe I'll check it out.
Oh, Kerry Russell's fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I love Kerry Russell. Kaplan wants him to turn. He refuses, even after Kaplan offers some really good logic. And I got to say, I'm sitting there when he was captured, right? And I'm like, well, Gerard is not going to turn, and he shouldn't, because you got to be loyal to your boy. And then she's going through all of the stuff that he screwed up in his life. I'm like, you know what? He's got to turn on him. I would flip on him on a dime. So she's got some good points, man. I mean, Red kind of ruined his life.
But at the same time, as Red said, people are loyal to me, not because they're loyal to me, but because I make them a freaking lot of money.
Yep.
And then Gerard even said, Gerard even said that. Gerard said, I'm in Raymond's employ because he pays me well. That's kind of hard to say no. Cash is coming in, especially if you have a new fiance.
No, he doesn't have anything right now. Remember, she's alone. He's alone. That's what she said. He's got nothing. He lost his fiance, is what she said. He would have had her. He was a week from parole. He had a fiance waiting, and now he doesn't have anything. He's on the run.
But the fiance went with him to Tahiti, to the banana plantation.
She's gone now, though.
What happened to Trudy? Did I miss that? Oh, damn, I have to go back and rewatch it again.
Is it like opposite day? Because you're supposed to remember all this minutia, and I'm supposed to be the one going, when did that happen? I think our wires are crossed. You want to switch? You want to trade microphones or something?
Something happened. We're spending way too much time to each other.
Yeah, something.
Transference or whatever. I don't know.
Oh, boy. Okay, so that's an interesting way that she's going about trying to get Red. Well, she's trying to bring Red down. But we're going to talk more about what Kaplan's plan as we go. We're just not there yet. So he says, no, I'm not going to do it, which I commend him. Couldn't you, I would lie probably. Just fake it. Yeah, I'll do whatever you want. Just, get me out of this chair. But because he refuses, she tapes him to a pole and the cops get called. So both him and Joe have been handed over. And they say they're not going to turn evidence, but, when you're looking at a lifetime behind bars, that can be persuasive.
Mm-hmm. Especially when we get the shot at the end when Joe's sitting there being questioned by the cops.
Yep. This could lead to some bad places. But I did love Gerard's line. You think maybe you're taking this cleaner concept a bit too far? That was pretty funny. All right. A lot of really clever lines in this episode. Okay, so Liz, once again, happy birthday. Tom's having a bad time, honestly. And then Raymond's response, is he? It felt like he was very excited that he's having a bad time. Did you take anything from that, or was it just a mention so we know where Tom is?
Well, I'm trying to watch this scene go down in the assumption that I have not seen Redemption and that Redemption doesn't take place, and because if you're just a Blacklist watcher, then you don't know anything about the events of what are happening on Redemption. But at the same time, you know that the worlds are connected, and if it's only a month, I think it was a month they said from when they were tracking Dembe in the previous episode, and assuming that this is all taking place very quickly, then potentially the events of Redemption are kind of still happening as this show is happening at the same time. So I find it funny when he said that. I was like, is he? I was like, oh, too bad. I wonder what mommy's doing to him.
Oh, it was really funny. It was really funny. All right. Well,
or that he knows because Scotty's been confiding in him and keeping him up to date kind of thing. But
that's possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's possible. We get to the point where Red wants to come up and see Agnes, and he makes the request, and it seems like Liz is willing to honor it. She, I guess, is forgiving the Kaplan thing because she's not dead. But she asked Red very specifically, if you can come up, as long as you promise me you won't hurt her, you won't hurt Kaplan. And he refuses.
Right, because because he wanted to come over to her apartment and see the place, and Liz said no. So he's respected that no ever since he originally wanted to come up and see the apartment after she moved out of the warehouse.
Correct.
But remember, he did come to the apartment to find Tom that one time.
Yeah, but that was different.
Correct.
That was different. So what do you think about this ultimatum? You can come up and you can see Agnes and you can see the place, but you have to assure me that you won't hurt Kaplan, and he won't do that. Do you think we'll get to a point where he will?
Maybe. I think this shows the resolve of the Reddington character, and that they're really trying to stick through his concepts, right? She's done stuff now where before I shot her because I have this place of if you cross me, if you don't come to me, if you don't share with me what your plan is, I'm going to put you down because that's what I believe in, right? I put down Newton Phillips, I put down Diane Fowler, you've betrayed me, I have to put you down, right? But he missed because he had this connection, this love or relationship or whatever it would be for Kaplan. And when you get to this point now she's done irreparable harm to his organization. So at that point, he can't make that decision. Like, that depends on how far this goes, because he will have to shoot her and kill her if it gets too far. So yeah, I'm agreeing in Red's response. I think it is the correct response from a Reddington mindset perspective, which also says that he's willing to walk away from Agnes in order to protect his organization, which is an interesting thing.
What if she said, "I will be done with you forever unless you promise that"? What do you think she'd do then? You have an opinion?
Then he'd probably say, "I promise."
That's what I thought too. All right. Well, she's kind of lost on who to believe, and we get this apartment scene.
And then it would be a doublespeak thing. Then it would be like, "Oh well, Dembe shot her. I didn't do anything with it, so I still didn't lie to you."
No, yeah, that's possible. That's possible. And we're going to talk about the scene between Kaplan and Liz in a second, but we're going to finish with just Liz. After they do have the scene, it seems like she does recognize Kaplan's phrase, and after the fact, believes her. The one thing I will say is when they actually have the conversation, Liz never even makes a question about, well, can you tell me what this whole connection is? Wouldn't it be, just to be devil's advocate, wouldn't that be your first question? Or do you think because she's so leery of the character at this particular moment in the scheme of things, she really is more concerned with getting her out of her apartment?
I don't know, because I have to play it back in my head, because as I was watching it, I'm like, well, then you can't come up because you can't promise you kill her. It was almost the way that played out initially almost seemed like maybe Liz knew she was upstairs, but at the same time she came in gun drawn, and I'm like, well, why would you come in gun drawn if the babysitter was there? Like if you're walking in your apartment and you hear somebody talking to you'd assume it's the babysitter. So why did she come in gun drawn in the first place? I thought that sequence was odd.
Well, anyway, get to the question I asked you.
Which was what?
We got to work on your listening skills. So the point of the scene is that she doesn't ask her the big question everybody wants to know, obviously, and you don't want everything spoiled yet because it'll have to come up at some other point. But she doesn't ask the question, okay, well, tell me about my childhood. You were my nanny, so tell me about that. Tell me what that means. Tell me what any of it means. Instead, she's more being short and curt and it seems like trying to get her out of the apartment. Well, do you think she was more concerned with Agnes's safety than she was her history?
Well, as a mom, yes, you're absolutely concerned about Agnes's safety. But at the same time, I think you have to come to some kind of self-realization, understanding, acceptance that Katya was the nanny. Right. So at that moment, she's getting the information immediately for the first time in a stressful situation to begin with. And so she's just taking in information at that point. You're not going to sit down and have a cup of tea and it's like, oh, yeah, well, tell me about all those peekaboo games that we played. I think that has to come at a later point. So I think the way the scene played out was it gave enough information to say, yep, I was your nanny. That's where this phrase came from. And because of that, I'm involved in your life and I beg you to do what your mom wasn't able to do, which was walk away. And I think the scene was perfect. I think it was fine. I wasn't expecting any more out of that in that moment. If they run into each other again, then I would expect her to have that question. Like, why did my mom hire you specifically? And why weren't you there then after you gave me to Sam and all of that stuff and blah, 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 blah. That's a conversation for the second time they run into each other.
Okay. I mean, I kind of felt like that was a question that needed to be asked, but I also, to an extent, understood all right, I got to get out of the apartment. I got to get her out of the apartment. She brings danger here. This could be worse for Agnes. And, there's some of that. But, all right, let's go to Kaplan. Now, we kind of have a bigger scope of what her plan is. We kind of know what she's trying to do. She's going to dismantle Red and get him arrested. And actually, it seems like she wants him to go to jail to pay for his crimes, so to speak. How do you feel about the plan?
Well, she said something, and I believe it was to the effect of I think she said it to Gerard. She said, I'm not doing this to get Raymond curtailed or whatever. I'm doing this to cleanse my own soul. So I don't think she cares one way or another what happens to Raymond, whether it's killed, captured, imprisoned, etc. She just wants to know that she did everything she could to cleanse herself of the situation. So I don't think she has a plan as to what's going to happen to Raymond other than expose everything so she can die cleanly and with a clean conscience.
Okay. I like it. I like that we know what her plan is. Apparently, if I can't kill you, I'll put you in jail. I'll bring you down. I'm going to do what I should have done before. You should not be walking among the free. It's kind of what it feels like. I mean, and I don't even think it's revenge anymore. I thought for a time it was just because, well, you're just mad because he shot you in the face. But now I get the bigger picture. I think she just wants to protect her, protect Agnes in particular. She says she's doing this for Agnes. She failed Liz, and now she's going to protect her. What do you think about that? I mean, that whole concept that the entirety of this is really just because she wants Raymond out of Agnes's life before he ruins that one too.
But why is it so important? It goes back to that question. Why this family? Why Agnes? What is so damn important that they have to protect these kids? Like, is there something bigger? Is it because it's a kid? Yeah, granted you want him safe, but at the same time, Liz is fully capable of that. She has the full backing of the Federal Bureau of Investigation to protect the child, put it in WITSEC or whatever.
I get what she's saying. I mean, to a degree, you got to look at it from her perspective, which is, she thought she was doing the right thing by helping before, and now she can't. She's already failed Liz. She said that. I've already failed Liz, and Liz is not getting out from under Red's fedora. She's still sticking with him. She's still working for the task force and helping these crimes, and still has somewhat of a connection to him. And she wants to take that away. She says Liz isn't making that conscious choice to leave Raymond. She's going to do that for Agnes and rip him from her. But that's what I'm getting.
That's also asking Liz to give up everything that she's worked for, being a profiler and being at the FBI. her job is to be an agent. So you're saying if you're going to walk away from Raymond, she has to walk away from being an agent, because right now Raymond's deal is with the task force, with the FBI. And she's got connections to Cooper. He's got connections to Ressler. Because of that, he's always going to be there. So how could she walk away? She'd have to give up everything and go to Cuba, which she already tried once and still couldn't get away.
I'm just seeing it from Kaplan's perspective. I see her goal.
Well, I think
her plan makes sense to me.
But I think when Kaplan said, "I failed you," I don't think it was "I failed you." It was "I failed your mother."
No, I think she failed Liz because she was supposed to protect Liz, and she didn't. Liz is actually in danger every time she works with Red. And as Kaplan said, I could have been one of Red's enemies, and look how easily I'm here. I get it.
But at the same time, did she protect Liz by going to work for Raymond? What if she'd said no back in the day when Raymond came calling and Sam came in and said, Raymond wants to talk to you? What if she would have said no and been an enemy? Would she have been put down then? And then Liz would have really been in trouble.
I don't know what one has to do with the other. Those two scenarios don't have anything to do with each other. They're just, she made the choice. That's done. She made the choice to protect Liz, and she feels like she failed protecting her. So now she was going to do whatever she can to protect Agnes. And since Liz can't seem to get out from under him, she's going to remove that from her.
Yep.
She's going to do it for her.
Correct.
That's what I'm getting.
Yeah.
Well, now you say correct. You didn't seem correct.
But I still don't think that Kaplan failed Liz. I think Kaplan made a choice to do the whole Cuba thing and hide her and hide the baby and things of that nature. Yeah, that failed, quote unquote. I think that "I failed you" comment is much bigger than "I just failed at hiding you from Red."
Possible. I haven't seen anything to prove that, but it's possible, sure.
Like, she failed protecting Liz by failing the fact that she couldn't protect the mother, because she said, I'll do everything in my power to protect you and the baby's mother. And because she failed to protect the mother, she failed Liz at the same time.
That too. There's a whole lot of failing going on.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. Whole lot of failing. I like that. Whatever are you feeding Agnes? Because that baby looked almost bigger than Kaplan. That's a big kid. She's got her end game planned, and she's using Philomena to lure in Gerard's sister to get Gerard, which she did. But now she's heading to Vienna. What do you think is in Vienna?
I can't say because I know.
Oh, because you saw the preview, right?
Well, I saw the preview and I know it's coming, so.
Son of a biscuit. All right, well, we'll skip that. I don't know what's coming. I have no idea. But I'm sure it has to do with Liz and her past. That's what I would guess. There's somebody there that can fill in some dots is probably what I'm guessing. If
I was to say something like I didn't know what was going on, then I would say then she's going to find all those international bodies that were buried that Raymond referenced.
That's possible. Yeah, that's going to be part of it too. But that's not what I think.
That's not what I think either.
Well, that's because that's not fair, man. I don't watch the previews. God, you suck. All right. Red, I don't look at the Blacklist names either. I try to avoid all that. Yeah, people keep tagging me and posts that show it. Stop that. I don't want to know. All right, Red, he tracks Kaplan's movements back to a hotel where the blind manager apparently tapes his guests. What the hell is going on with that?
Hey, you know what? You can't see somebody, right? When you see somebody, you see into their soul. You see their personality. They have a way about them. And if you're blind, seeing impaired, then you have that issue of you can't really see your customers. So maybe this is a great way for him to understand his customers better. So when they come back for repeat business, he can have a personal relationship with them. To us, it seems creepy, but there could be a valid thing to it. You never know.
No, it's completely creepy and illegal in about 14 different ways. So that's a horrible thing. Blind guy is freaky, and we need to lock that ass up. So I hope he's a blacklister on a future episode. Can you do that? Because that'd be kind of cool to have, like, this guy turns out to be Daredevil or something. That'd be kind of cool. But that was really freaky. But he did get some audio, and it led him to Philomena, which is a good thing.
I was a little disappointed, though, I have to admit. Because she's like, yeah, she was kind of strange and kept to herself, and then doesn't say anything all day, and then she's crying in her sleep. And I'm like, oh, we're going to get something juicy on this tape. And then it was, I just want to find Philomena. It was like, damn it. Like,
she's probably in a lot of pain, and, she got a shot in her face, and, she's been betrayed. There's a whole lot of things to cry about. I'd be bawling, too.
I was just hoping for something on the tape. That was all. Because you set it up, and then you're like, ooh, we're going to get something juicy, and then it's like, oh, it's just to move the case along.
What were you hoping? Like, she'd be sitting there talking to herself and explaining all the big secrets?
Maybe. Or at least a nugget, a morsel. Just a crumb.
You're a dork.
Something.
All right. Well, apparently we found out Red's perfect Saturday night is pot pies, Lawrence Welk, and bath time with his babysitter.
That was creepy.
That was a little weird. All right. Well, at least we know. So if anybody is, perhaps if you live in New York and run into Spader, maybe you can give him some pot pies. I'm sure he'll love that. Well, Red uses
or it's like one of those things like not to say that the show isn't coming back for season 5, but let's say the show was canceled, right? We can all do the pot pie campaign. We send pot pies and pecan pies to NBC.
Oh my God. Don't get stuff like that started. Don't even talk like that, because somebody will start saving up and well, I'm going to get all the Swansons I can get. All right, Red uses Congressman Edelstein to track down Philomena through number 652 at a boot store emporium. That was interesting. And then everything basically came together. So with Red, we've already talked a lot about Red throughout this episode, but there is one particular scene that I think is really important that we should discuss. And that was, to me, the biggest scene of the episode. Do you agree the Red and Dembe scene was a very large scene?
Yeah. Because it goes back to the whole Emma, right, from the harem. When it truly seemed like Red was true. He's like, if you wanted to leave, you could have just come to me and I would have let you go. Mm-hmm. And so he's sticking, so that his consistency then, when you bring it to the Dembe scene, that same consistency is still there. So you're starting to have a pattern that Red actually is, I hate to use the word honest in his dealings, but when he is set in his his moral compass, whatever there is of that left, but when he is on his moral compass, then therefore he does stick to what he says. So there's precedent for it, and he follows through with it. So that's good to let us know a little bit about the character.
Yeah, it is. And it was a really touching scene. It's nice whenever those two get to share a moment that isn't about tracking someone down or chasing someone down or something like that. And because they were at odds for the last episode or two, that was really nice to have them come together. And I love the moment, being the best friend. You're my only friend. At the end of the day, it's just business, but I really only have one friend. You're my friend. And I misjudged you in a way that no apology can suffice. And I'm ashamed of that. That was just a beautiful monologue. It
also ties back into Kaplan then. Because where we're getting this, you're my only friend, you've tied into that. He felt the same way about, I have to assume he felt the same way about Kaplan up until the point where he had to shoot her. So even though she's alive now, it seems like he's truly made the statement of there is no reconciliation for Kaplan, any way, shape, or form. So by giving us this touching moment with Dembe, we're also getting answers into the Kaplan relationship at the same time.
That's true. Yeah, no, that is true. Yes, that's very true. But it was really about those two men. I mean, it was really about their friendship and how he valued him and how he thought he was a traitor. And he should have never doubted him. He should have given the benefit of the doubt instead of, what he did. I just thought that was a really moving moment. But he gives him a box. And he tells him that he is free to leave whenever he wants. And that's when you open the box. So my question is, what do you think is in that box? Or box, as Brad Pitt would say.
Cash. Things that take care of his family. Because if you think
he could wire that.
Yeah, but if you wire it, then you got to clean it. And I mean, this is just pure cash, unmarked bills. I think it has something to do with Dembe and his family. Because if you think about what Red has been doing this entire time, it's truly been about the family and the daughters and Katerina's daughter and blah 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 blah. However you feel about that whole stuff, but it's been about family, right? It's about taking care of your family and making sure families are secure, even when they're talking about the harbor master's daughter and taking care of family and things of that nature. So I think it has something to do with his daughter and his granddaughter, something that will help them be able to live free and clear for the rest of their lives.
I think it's something very, very personal and very deeply connected to Raymond Reddington. I don't think it has a monetary value at all. Not even a little bit. I think it's something to show him. Maybe it's something from his childhood. Maybe it's something, I don't know, maybe it's something from Raymond's childhood. I don't know. But I think it was something definitely from his heart. It wasn't financial. It was from his heart. That's what I think. I'm really curious to see what that would be.
Or it's just tickets to the Steelers game so they can go as cohorts instead of co-workers.
Nice. I do want to point something out as we close up because of last week where you went on and on about your mommy theory. But Mr. Kaplan says a statement where she says, do what your mother never had the courage to do until it was too late. Walk away from Raymond. To me, that sounds like, it's a done deal. It's not the mom. But I think that all the time, and then something comes up where I'm like, I guess it's possible.
Or you could say that she did walk away from Raymond.
No, she didn't. She specifically said, do what your mother never had the courage to do until it was too late. Walk away from Raymond.
Well, I mean,
she did it too late.
Well, it's the definition of what you mean by too late, right? Because
no, it's too late means too late. It's really pretty cut and dried.
Yeah.
Only in Troy's world is that cloudy. It's pretty clear. I just wanted to throw it in there. It's not something we need to talk about. All right.
Yeah. No. Well, the too late, of course, refers to the fact that she killed herself. Like, you're going to be at that point where if you wait too long, you're going to be in the same boat your mom was in, and that is you're going to have to kill yourself in order to get away from him.
Yep, or the whole world's going to come crashing down.
Yeah.
Show's not over, so don't go anywhere, but please remember to download the Blacklist Exposed app for iOS and Android, and be sure to go even deeper into the mystery of Raymond Red Reddington by visiting our partner Blacklist site, theblacklistnbc.com.
We all know that Red Reddington is a man of fine fashion and taste, and now all of you can experience a bit of that lifestyle with the new limited edition Reddington watch from Leonard & Church. This blackface single red-handed timepiece captures the style and look of our beloved main character. It's presented in a 40mm sapphire crystal case. You'll love the way the stitched leather band wraps around your wrist. It's perfect for both men as well as the ladies and makes a perfect early holiday gift for any fan of the show. Leonard & Church works directly with the manufacturer, skipping the middleman, delivering the highest quality direct to you online at a radical price point. In addition to the Reddington, they offer a selection of men's, women's, and unisex watches to help you find the style you need to fit any occasion. So pick up the Reddington or any of the fine Leonard & Church watches today at leonardandchurch.com/blacklist. That's leonardandchurch.com/blacklist. We love ours. We know you'll love yours too. That's leonardandchurch.com/blacklist. Welcome to Red's Rhetoric, that part of the show where we play two scenes from this week's episode of The Blacklist, and then you get to vote which one is your favorite over at theblacklistexposed.com. Just look for the post for Philomena. Last week, Red Confessor won, as you all loved Reddy Boy pouring his heart out to Liz, surprisingly bidding out Red and Kaplan's war of words. Shocking. But first, our clip this week. It comes when Red hunts down Philomena.
Excellent.
Can I help you?
Yes, congratulations, Congressman Edelstein. Aaron's going to make you and your wife very, very proud.
Do we know you?
Howard Klein, the Swerdlow Briss? It's okay. Just consider me a fellow traveler, one who understands and appreciates the importance of strong family bonds and the critical role these milestones play in forging them.
Yes, of course. It's the small things, like bricks in a fortress.
And well worth defending, by the way, or hiring someone to defend, like Philomena, for instance.
Can you give us a moment? Who the hell are you?
You engaged Philomena to compromise a certain tennis instructor at the Town and Country Racket Club who is carrying on a long-term fervent affair with your wife, thereby preserving your marriage for this happy occasion. I believe his name was Chip. What kind of name is that, Chip? Is that short for something? Chipper, Chipwick, or...
What do you want? Money?
All I want is to know the means by which you contacted Philomena. Consider it a mitzvah.
Our second comes when Red and Dembe have a heart-to-heart.
With you down for the count the last few days, I've felt the consequences of your absence on my soul.
So you bought me shoes?
No, not now. And not shoes. A parting gift.
I don't understand, Raymond.
Most of my associates are under the impression that once I've granted them a favor, they're indebted to me for life. But it's a false assumption. They're indebted to me because I make them a lot of money. They're loyal to me because I've earned it. It's good business. But at the end of the day, it's just business. In service of what?
Safety, security, a health and well-being of the ones we love.
Well, I really only have one friend. You're my friend. And I misjudged you in a way that no apology can suffice.
I'm ashamed of that.
I want you to keep that box, and on the day you decide to leave...
I'm not going to leave.
But you can. At any point of your own choosing, I'll insist that you do. No questions asked, no debts accrued, with our friendship intact and flourishing. For we'll have new lands to discover. Not as co-workers, but as cohorts.
Which was your favorite? If there is a love interest that you need to take care of, vote #RedTennis. Or if you have that one friend in your life, vote #RedCohort.
Hi, it's Megan Boone, and you're listening to Blacklist Exposed on Golden Spiral Media.
Okay, let's go on to Special Agent Intel. That's where we hear from you guys what you thought about the episode. First up is Grace Norman. I've loved and appreciated the music on the show for years. Loved hearing Sundown again, and the characters kind of reliving that scene.
When I heard that, I was looking around. Is there a female around? Because another female's going to get shot in this. Just Gordon Lightfoot, run away, run away. Leanne said, "Now I have 7 stuck in my head. What's in the box?"
I was not alone. That really bummed me out. I really thought, well, nobody's going to get that. That movie's too old. I was wrong.
I texted Aaron like right in that second.
Sheila Snover, wrestler's former partner, is making me nervous. He is a bit strange. Did he say he was gone for a while? Did he have actual visions of Diane being shot? He looked funny, and when the gun went off, he flinched. I'm telling you, he's in Raymond's mind. That's what it is. That's what I think.
Living the dream. Kara Adler said, was just watching the highlight between Liz and Kaplan when something stuck out. Kaplan says it's not surprising that Liz doesn't remember her considering all that Liz has been through. But Liz knows her memory was tampered with. That means either Kaplan doesn't know Liz's memory was tampered with, meaning it was done after Liz was left with Sam, or Kaplan is omitting that for some reason. Even more importantly, it implies Kaplan is still in the dark on some of Red and, by extension, Liz's secrets. It has me wondering, is Kaplan the big bad, or is someone else backing her in her crusade against Red?
I think Kaplan's the big bad, but that does bring up a good point, because maybe she knows words wouldn't suffice, that Liz wouldn't know to trust her, so she's going to have to unlock her full memories to really bring it out. Now I'm really curious about what Vienna is. All right, Nate, what can I say about this episode? Bazinga! Is this a crossover? I have to say at first, I didn't want Kaplan to be the big bad, but after watching this episode 3 times in a row, Kaplan is one bad mother. Shut your mouth. I love a good Shaft reference. I'll always see Red as a master chess player. With every foe in battle, he manipulates the pieces so he can gain the ultimate victory. It's absolutely delicious that Red's confidant, gone rogue, knows how to play the game because she learned from the best. Kaplan is playing this chess game like a pro, and Red is losing some major pieces in the process. I really liked the Blacklister this week, but I loved how Kaplan used her to play the game. I wonder what moves she has planned overseas. The big difference between Kaplan and the other foes is that we care deeply about both Red and Kaplan. I would agree, man. I love Kaplan.
And
if she gets hurt, I will be very, very angry. I was really angry already once this year. I don't want to be angry about it again.
We were distraught the first time when she went down. Everybody was like in tears on the floor. It's crazy. But she's back. That's a good thing. But how long is the question. And I also love that.
Tears on the floor might be a bit dramatic. I mean,
dude, when she got shot, I was crying. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe that just happened. I was bawling. And then NBC's like, don't worry, she'll be back next week. Still bitter about that promo.
He's still so mad. I've never seen somebody so mad.
Look, emotional roller coaster. I also love the fact that Cooper used, hey, we're going to be close to our Blacklister this week. It's like, funny. Use Blacklister. That's funny. Ella Bauer, I thought this was a great episode. The Blacklister was good, and honestly, I didn't think that she was Philomena until she pulled out the taser. I know most will hate me for saying this, but I cannot stand or hate Kaplan. I have since the start, and even more so now. I find her annoying, hypocritical, and frustrating. Hopefully, hopefully this arc is phasing her out because I am Team Red. I'm also not liking Samar right now. She's too proud and too hard-ass. Ram hasn't done anything wrong. I'm not too sure why Liz feels so strongly about Kaplan. Yes, she was her nanny, but Red has protected her more than anybody. Everything he's done for her. I also don't like Gale. Man, you're really... Ella's... she doesn't like anybody on the show, it seems like.
She's probably in that frustrating moment. I'm telling you, give Gale another chance. If you look at it from that perspective as somebody who's too in the mind of Raymond Reddington, I think you'll appreciate him more.
It's an interesting character for sure. On a positive note, the scenes between Red and Dembe were my favorite part of the episode. I wonder what's in the box. Despite my complaints, I still enjoyed the episode, and I hope that Red puts Kaplan in her place.
Okay.
I like Kaplan.
I do too. And I hope she makes it out of this alive. All right. Well, Suzanne Patterson. Okay, so let me get this straight. Liz is out with Red, and they pull up to her apartment. She tells Red she can't go in and see Agnes. By the way, I think all of Blacklist fandom did a collective eye roll when she denied his visit with Agnes. No, I didn't. I didn't. I thought this one made sense to me.
It did.
Yeah. Anyways, back to my point. So Liz gets out of the car and enters her apartment to find Kaplan holding Agnes. She tells Kaplan, I can protect my baby just fine on my own. I beg to differ. Here's the kicker. Tom was nowhere to be seen. Liz just got home. Who the hell was watching Agnes before Kaplan broke in? Yeah, sure. Liz wins Mother of the Year.
If you're tracking along, that's 5 babysitter references so far.
Yeah, well, there was somebody in the room, and I don't know, man. It didn't bother me because I just assumed one of my options I mentioned earlier. So, but it bothered a lot of people. So it's obviously just me.
The challenge is that if there was a babysitter there, okay, she's not going to be going to work and leaving the kid all alone by herself to cook and make, play house and clean bathrooms and things of that nature. There was clearly a babysitter there, and Kaplan came home, and Kaplan was able to say enough information to make the babysitter go away. The problem I have with the scene is why would Liz have any thought in her brain otherwise that it wasn't just the babysitter in the house? It's like she would just come walking in, drop off her groceries, turn around, and then she'd be like, oh crap, Kaplan's in my place. Like she came in hearing a weird different voice, which I wouldn't think she would have suspected. So I think that's where I had a little bit of trouble with this scene, is that she expected someone to have broken in because she came in gun drawn. Mm-hmm. So anyways, moving on.
Yeah. Well, she noticed something was different, or whatever.
Well, she heard Kaplan cooing, at Agnes, so it's probably a different voice, but still.
In my mind, she released the babysitter because she was there. I just went with that, and I'm okay with it. But I get why some people aren't, but I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I'm fine with the babysitter part of it. I'm having a hard time with the whole how I enter the apartment part of it.
Or the babysitter maybe was the person that was just standing there. Maybe babysitter was just hanging back.
Could
I don't know.
Yeah, out of the camera shot.
Well, no, there was a person in the camera shot. If you go look, there's a person there. Could have been with Kaplan. Could have been the babysitter. I don't know. It's just there's so much other stuff I had in the show to ingest. I really didn't think much more about it.
All right. Annalise Olivia said, why does the FBI need 86 bodies of proof on Diane Fowler's murder to get Red? He is on the most wanted list. Just go get him. He's already facing death penalty for treason. Eye roll. Kate's memory is failing again. Hello, Cuba.
I'm kind of with her on that one, by the way. It's exactly what I said when we were watching it. I'm like, I don't get why the 86 really matters at this point. He's already on the most wanted list. What more do you need? I mean, he's bad.
Yeah. Kate's memory is failing again. Hello, Cuba. Holding Agnes. I think she was saying, like, I haven't seen Agnes in a while, right? Since she left. Mm-hmm. Red's prints are on record, the pilot. Red has someone on the inside, and I think there's a point to be made there. DNA test. Maybe now Liz will actually look into that DNA test closely after the conversation with Red and then Kate. I think in the end, it will be Liz who will put down Kate. Poor Red. First, Katerina doesn't allow him to see Liz, and now Liz doesn't allow him to see Agnes. Deja vu? Anybody?
Wow. Ouch. Deborah Jean, great episode. Really love the scene between Red and Dembe. Truly beautiful. Liz must have read the rest of her mother's journal because I believe she already knows who her dad is.
Well, that wouldn't make sense because even Katerina didn't know.
Yeah, that's a good point. Look at you. Finally, you remember something. All right,
I'm still predicting today.
I'm still predicting that Agnes will be harmed because of Kate's war, and it's not an enemy of Red's, but an enemy of Katerina's. Kate has her information backwards, which makes all sense now after last week's episode. Oh, and I think Cooper switched the fingerprints. Oh, he's using Wrestler in this investigation. He wants to move up the ladder, not down.
It's very possible too. That was the whole
I've never seen anything from Cooper to indicate he's power hungry yet, though.
I don't think it's necessarily to move up the ladder, but he did say, hey, you should check that out. You should go do that thing. So he's definitely trying to protect something, in the wake of everything that's going on.
So instead of Samar doing the fingerprint, maybe it was Cooper.
Could be.
Yeah. All right.
Crystal said, I really enjoyed this episode a lot. I was really worried it wouldn't, but just by default because it was following last week's phenomenal episode. The Blacklister was well prepared, but kind of just okay. Wasn't anything thrilling about her. The scene with Dembe and Red was my favorite. Absolutely beautiful. Love that Wrestler is getting more of the spotlight. The new agent seems to be more connected to Diane Fowler than just an agent investigating. I do like the way the flashback to that scene was shot. It was really cool. I'm personally disliking the Samar and Aram back and forth thing. I miss Samar just being a badass with her witty remarks. I am too. I was okay when they showed her softer side, but I don't like this flip-flopping on the same issue. Damn, Mr. Kaplan, wrapping Marvin Gerard like a burrito on that pole. He's one of my favorites. I say to help Red track down Mr. Kaplan, let's bring back another one of my favorites, Leonard Call. Ooh, nice. Lastly, just what Liz needed was one more person telling her what to do with her daughter's life.
Her daughter and
her life. Her daughter and her life.
I'm with her, man. Man, Liz, just tell people, shut it. Just shut it. Mind your own damn business. I already have to deal with this one moron that's hanging out with his mom that wants to make out with him. I don't need more grief in my life.
Yeah.
All right. Lastly, Soumya. I hope I said that right, Soumya. Fast, well-paced episode. Loving it. The Blacklist is back with awesome writing and cool Blacklisters. This season is turning awesome. I want season 5. Well, then what you should do is you should gather a bunch of pot pies and you should send them to NBC. Just kidding. Don't do that.
And pecans, so they have dinner and dessert. Even more special.
No, just pot pies, because they're all frozen and they would weigh so much. It'd be such a pain. I hope nobody do that. Please don't do that, because we'll get in trouble. And we did see this. Astrid in our Facebook group, she wanted to point out that random fact, because Red mentioned it in the episode. The name Chip is generally short for Christopher or Charles. I did not know that. Thank you, Astrid.
Like Christopher Hargrave? What? The connections, I tell you.
You would try to find that connection. Good call.
I would.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. I think we are done. Once again, I do want to thank John, Amir, and Susan for last week. Not to make you guys annoying, but annoyed from bringing it up again. But that was a really great time, and I really want to give them a shout out if they happen to listen to this. And you can listen to the whole panel, I believe, in our previous episode.
Yeah, Blacklist Exposed, episode 81.
Yeah, 81. Which is it was a lot of fun. So definitely check that out if you can. And that's going to conclude this episode. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at The Blacklist GSM, where we live tweet during the East Coast feed, and we use the show's hashtag, The Blacklist.
Don't forget to follow us on Tumblr, Instagram, and join the Facebook group. We are just over another milestone, so make sure you come out there and hang out with us. Lots of good theories being discussed. Just search for The Blacklist Exposed. Talk about the show, the podcast, or your favorite babysitting story.
You don't want to know mine. All right. You will also subscribe to the podcast in Apple Podcasts or listen from the website. But if you're really on the go, make sure you download our app for iOS or Android, powered by Spreaker. You can find all the intel and analysis about this episode for Philomena by visiting theblacklistexposed.com. And I want to tell you, the reason I said Apple Podcasts is because Apple said we can't use iTunes anymore because times are changing and they want their name too as well. Big thanks for listening. Don't forget to answer our profiling question. What is it? What do you think is behind... No,
not what?
It is not that.
That's not what?
Don't listen to me. I don't know what I'm saying half the time. I drink a lot. I need to stop drinking and smoking hash while we're recording. All right. The question is, who do you think is behind the missing fingerprint? I am so sorry.
That's okay.
I'm going to get back to my cocaine-fueled days.
I feel better. The energy has shifted back the other way around.
I almost made it. I almost made it out of here, and it was all you. I was really looking forward to that because that feels good inside.
We're going to Austria next week. It's going to be fun.
What? Oh, it was
Vienna.
I'm like, we're going on a trip? Where are we going, Dad?
Well, we're actually going to Chicago to get hot dogs. Vienna beef.
Oh, I hate hot dogs. I hate hot dogs. Ugh.
See you, everybody.
All right.
Until next time, I'm Agent Troy Heinritz. That's at Troy Heinritz on Twitter. And if you want to learn more about me, just visit, about.me/Troy Heinritz.
And I'm Agent Aaron Peterson. You can hear me talking about movies and TV on the Hollywood Outsider podcast, as well as Remake This Movie Right. We are available at thehollywoodoutsiders.com or on Twitter at H_outsider. Be sure to subscribe, download the app, submit your feedback, but most importantly, keep yourself off of the Blacklist.
The Blacklist Exposed is a Golden Spiral Media production. Find more of our great podcasts at goldenspiralmedia.com/podcasts.